Universities to versing a new voice. Unison, a reverie translates the feelings lost. Battles won in vain, searing the flame no matter what. Some blood harvest, loss and pain, only to love. The nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love. Throughout the time we spent getting to know each other well, my deep admiration has changed into attraction as well as encompassing the curving waves that sway, forming seashells to hold against your ears and hear the sound of your true self. The nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love. The nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love, the nature of love. A natureza do amor. Yo, yo, yo. How are you guys? Cheers. Ready to do this? Hello, I'm Frederico At, your friend. Seu amigo. Mais uma terça-feira. Yes, yes, yes. Another Tuesday here. Glad to be building connection, spending just a moment with you, sharing some music, and having conversations with my friends, with wonderful, amazing people. And today, very excited to have Beto Martinez. Gonna have a conversation, talk about many things, because that man has done many, 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 many things around our city and the world. So what a great guy to catch up with. Someone that for me is a leader, uno de los líderes of the scene, of the whole Austin music scene, and also the Latinx music scene in Austin through bands way back in the days of the Blimp and the Blue Noise Band, through the first times at Empanada Parlor with Grupo Fantasma, and then so forth, Brownout, Money Chicha, and his studios, Leche House Studio. So tons to talk about with Beto today. Happy to be here, as I do every Tuesday, just a moment to check in. Hope you're doing okay. We have been in a pandemic for 8 to 9 months now, 8 months, something like that, almost. Yes. So Right now it's getting rough. I had a lot of ups and downs in this last week, so I actually went on a few walks, took some pictures, did some photography that kind of put my mind somewhere else, so I could. As an artist, we get a lot from being on stage, from doing rehearsals, from touching base with our people. Playing live music does something very important um, for our hearts. The electromagnetism happening in our bodies, having those bass frequencies shake the bones, is healing. And so definitely was missing a little bit of that. So that's part of why we are here every Tuesday with you, just sharing some time and checking in on our friends, checking in on our musicians. Last week, last week was a lot of fun because the Theater Girls were here. It was excellent time. We had an excellent chat with the Theater Girls. I'm gonna play a video by them, their new lyric video. Yeah, let's have some music right now. Yay, let's do this. So yeah, I like to do this. I like to play some music from my previous guests. So last week the Tiara Girls were here. They have a new music video called "Can't Stop the World." Let's check it out. And
I give up looking for a reason to live with things just the way they were. I came around, used to be easy to get to, so they got to me just about every way. There's no magic here, the golden rule is gone. Those dirty tricks are falling out the sleeves. You knock me down, but don't know I'm better on the ground. I got so many licks and kicks can make me bleed. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Why let it stop you? Why let it stop you? Why let it stop you? Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Your heart, your in your car, they've all been broken. You let everybody know about your better days. You got beat and it's not entertaining watching you try to stand up on your feet again. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Why let it stop you? Why let it stop you? Can't stop the world. I give up wondering the reasons. Surrender to a future that feels fine. Those things you said so funny. Those things you did for money. Everything you want, you still is mine. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Why let it stop you? Why let it stop you? Why let it stop you? Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world. Can't stop the world.
eso. All right, all right. Yes, the Tiara Girls were here last time. We talked about leveraging, how they leverage their passion of music to get young people to vote. Pretty outstanding. So yeah, I like to all, that's what this show is all about, is showing folks some love and keeping us connected. So yeah, it was great to have them here, reminding everybody. And I'm gonna throw it out there that there is this website called Texas 2020.org. Makes it super easy for everybody. Oh my gosh, like I have not seen a site that makes it easier for people to figure it out, how to do their thing. Like I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'm gonna share to you guys, because why not? Here it goes. Texas 2020, yeah, that's right. So .org, like what do you need to vote, where can you go, like everything, how, what's the process to vote, what are the races, what am I voting on, like you oh, what the machine looks like, etc. Texas2020.org. It's super super easy, nonpartisan. Is just a very easy tool for folks that may have any questions, like what's the wait time on the line, etc., etc. So just sharing, because yeah, we got to do it, get to it. I definitely don't believe that voting is the only thing we have to do. I think it's a tiny, tiny, tiny little minúsculo, una cosita pequeña for social change, or the change that we want to see in the world. But I definitely believe that it is an integral part of it. This year was the first year that I ever voted for president, because I became a US citizen in 2016. I have voted every election since. However, this was the first presidential election that I had the pleasure to vote. And after living here for more than 20 years and not being able to vote, I can tell you that once I got that privilege to do it, once I am able to, I'm definitely invested into social change in general, but part of that is voting. So do it, Texas org. I had the website earlier here, but yeah, I'll put it on later on. So yeah, and talking about connecting with people, yes, in just a little bit, I'm gonna have Beto Martinez, our friend, nuestro amigo. I know Beto for several decades now, actually, as a matter of fact. So I can't wait to just catch up and reminisce and talk about his experiences, both in the past, in the present as well, and what's going on. And next week, la próxima semana, next week, Aubrey Hayes, she's going to be here. It's going to be election night. She's going to be talking. Yeah, it's going to be election night, right? So here the Tiara Girls once again telling everybody vote, 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 vote. So absolutely next Tuesday, I'm going to have Aubrey Hayes here. We're going to talk about how she has been leveraging her voice as a musician, and how she gets involved and what she's doing in this election season to keep folks engaged. Big salute, big hello, love to everybody. If you are in Facebook or YouTube land, muito obrigado. I do have a new YouTube channel. You can definitely check it out. Welcome to do so. Please, information is down below. And if you are watching on Austin Music Television Channel 16, pleasure. Que bueno estar aquí. We are just musicians that are in our houses, and we are trying to connect. That's what this show is all about, every Tuesday at 7. So muito obrigado. If you are on Google Fiber, if you are in any of those other apps there and you ran into the show, agradeço. Do Brasil, we have people, sempre tem pessoas do Brasil que estão vendo, abraço, e por toda Latinoamérica e México, que bueno que estão aqui con nosotros. I appreciate you guys so very much. If you are a musician in Austin, Texas, you got to check these guys out. You got to go to the Facebook of Austin, Texas musicians, just to get some news and information about, things that may be affecting the livelihood of musicians these days. So I encourage you, if you play music in Austin, check that Facebook page, Austin, Texas musicians, so you are in the know of some things in terms of legislation and issues that may affect you. Muito obrigado. Ok, queridos. let's listen to some music. Let's listen to some music by our special guest today. I'm going to play a jam here that was done at Leche House Studios. And soon after, I will bring him to talk to us. So this is Villanova Jam at Leche House. Check it out, and we'll be right back. All right, all right, all right. Maravilha, maravilha, hermano. How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, man.
Man, it's great to have a conversation with you. I love that jam. So tell us a little bit about it. Were you over there in your studio? We're just having some fun. Talk to us a little bit about what we just heard.
Yeah, so that was actually a Jimi Hendrix tune that he played at Woodstock. It's one of my favorite Jimi Hendrix songs, and I recently got that white Stratocaster. So what do you do when you get a Strat? You know, you got to play a little Hendrix, and I just wanted to mess around, and I played the drums and the bass on it, and then just laid it down. It's something I kind of started doing over the pandemic when I found myself here by myself. Was I started playing drums and bass and guitar, and even singing a little bit, but just basically doing what I had to do to continue to make some recordings. But that was one of those things. It's something I wanted to try. And like I said, I just got that guitar, so I was like, let me try to play this Hendrix tune just in honor of Hendrix and the White Strat.
Oh my gosh, it's so iconic, dude. Congrats on your white Strat. Congrats.
Thank you, thank you.
And you know, that's I always it's not very original, I know, but it's good to check in, and I always just ask people, you know, how are you doing today, just today?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I was mixing some music earlier today. I just made some dinner for the kids and ran out here, but it's been pretty chill. Surprised at how cold it's gotten. Few things actually popping in, actually, like some business for musician, you know, here and there, a couple of inquiries about like, hey, would you guys be willing to do this or that? And so that's kind of new considering the last few months of just not a lot going on. But yeah, that was my day pretty much, pretty chill.
Yes, that's great, man. Because sometimes it can be an up and down, and having the kids in the house and having to, like, oh, they keep you grounded, like, oh yeah, uh, my your mind can only go so far. Then you gotta get the dinner and gotta do the things, and part of the when I was thinking about, oh, I'm gonna talk to Beto, I was just, that was part of the thing that kept coming back to me. The many Betos, no, you got your studio that we'll talk about it in a moment, because I want to know, the drive and the inspiration to start on that, and all the bands that you've been over the years, and then your family, man, your husband, and you're a dad, and so a lot of things that we juggle as artists that. Yeah, inform us how we do work. So I was thinking about the many battles that and then I guess in the one of the videos that you have, we get to see you playing many instruments, so that goes right with the theme, right? The theme of today is like the very many battles that you get to be.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And touching on this, how are you feeling and we have other musicians, algunos músicos that may be watching this, and friends of ours. How are you feeling about these things that are coming in? I had a few concert. I played a show last week, and I had a few things similarly. Like, so it sounds. Since I got a little bit of inquiries and a couple of things this last week, so and now I'm hearing from you that you are doing as well. Sounds like maybe it's going around. So how are you feeling? Are there certain things that you need to see in place before you agree to play elsewhere? How does that work, especially such big bands that you get to play in at times?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something that's been on our mind even before we started getting these inquiries. That's been the big question, what is it going to take to get back out there to play? When will you feel comfortable? So, the first thing that we did was a couple of weeks ago, or maybe less than 2 weeks ago, at the Moody Theater for a Black Fret event with Brownout. And that's the first show that we had done since March. And
Nice.
That event really, the whole inquiry started with explaining to us the efforts they were going to take in terms of safety, in terms of distancing and masks and temperature checks and all this sort of stuff. Even though it was indoors, the Moody Theater is pretty big, as you know, and they had a very limited capacity. So that was one that we had to think about because it was indoors, but we felt safe, at least the risks that we were willing to take personally. I mean, we all wore masks. We kept our masks on. Some of the guys can't wear masks on stage. But definitely, as we've been getting inquiries, there's the idea of, is it indoors or is it outdoors? We're actually playing a drive-in show on Friday. So that for us felt kind of like a no-brainer. It's outside, and the people will be in their cars or standing by their cars. So that really felt a lot more comfortable and easier to actually take, but I think when
I think that's it, right? I'm just dropping it on the screen. So that's on Friday, right?
Yeah, that's on Friday with Money Chicha and El Dusty. So I'll be playing twice, actually.
Great.
But yeah, I think for me, if they come and they tell you these are all the things that we're doing, then you know that safety is on their mind, and safety is an important part of it. So then it makes us feel comfortable. I mean, this will only be the second show that we do, so it's not like I've had a bunch of options to do shows, but that makes me feel good and really give the event more consideration if somebody comes right up front with all the safety considerations.
Yes, and I definitely agree, because then you are worried on so many levels, right? You are concerned about your family and yourself, and then you're thinking about, oh, I don't want my band to be associated with something that goes awry, or
Exactly.
So, yeah, I definitely understand. And I also like to say that I understand that folks are in different boats and different situations, you know. So I know we've been on this for 8-9 months. It gets old, but it's good to hear that you guys are thinking a lot about it. Um, Silver linings from this whole situation, man. I mean, of course, you guys and over the years, you have had especially 2019, you had a very big, long tour, summer tour last year,
Mhm.
with maybe different bands even that you were playing around Europe and throughout North America. Uh, h- how was how did you manage this? Or not manage, like but these extremes, right? In middle of March we get this note, and boom, all of that touring and a lot of that uh, rhythm that you were having, a summer rhythm. Oh, summer I do this. Oh, so you had a lot of did you have a lot of interesting things lined up for the summer already? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Um, yeah, so 2019 was a huge year for touring for me. I toured with 5 different bands, 3 of which were mine, or 4 of which were mine. North America, went to Europe, went to Russia, went to Turkey. So it was a lot of touring. I was gone for several months. So I had already sort of made the decision to not tour as heavy in
I see.
2020. But we did release a record with Brownout on the day that South by Southwest got canceled. So we were already booking dates for that, and we had dates on the West Coast, we had dates in the Southeast, we were going to be on the East Coast. I see the comment.
Oh yeah, people are getting in here. If you comment, we'll see it.
Thanks, Rambo. But yeah, so we did have things lined up, and it was a letdown, you know, and it's sort of like having to figure out, well, what am I going to do now? But I mean, one of the things about it was that everybody was in the same situation. So while it was shocking, it was like, okay, we're going to figure this out, hopefully. And it actually started a real sort of dialogue that maybe started in social media and then spread from there, but exchanging ideas and information with a lot of musicians that I wouldn't maybe do that with regularly. You know what I mean? I sort of stepped out of my group because you want to get advice and information from other people and share information. And it started this whole other communication that I think, you mentioned silver linings, and that's maybe where it started. And then I went from there to doing collaborations with people once we sort of settled into what we were doing. But I think like a wider reach, or just a willingness to sort of step outside of our insular little world. Even though we couldn't do it physically, it seemed like that happened a lot more either virtually or over like text or email or whatever. They're like the network expanded a bit.
Yeah, or right here, right now. I never thought, oh, I gonna interview international musicians for cable TV, or it wasn't something. It was more like, hey, I kind of wanna, like you said, exchange information.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these groups, advocacy groups that have been popping up. I mentioned earlier the Austin, Texas musicians as one of them, but musicians we love freedom, and it's not like we are not known for, oh, we musicians are going to start talking to each other and organize and try to figure it out, how to move to. I mean, we do it, but it's been interesting to see both in an organic way and also in an organized way how certain things are playing out in Austin. I see you as a leader, just for the time, the grit, the hard work. One of the several leaders that we have in Música Latina in our city. what is the state of Latinx music in Austin? We have people watching in Brazil right now. We have people watching here in Austin, Texas. So, like, for those that know and that don't know, how do you feel when about the scene since you've been part of the scene for 20 plus years? Yeah, how do you see the scene in 2020 in terms of Latinx music?
So I definitely think that it's grown and expanded from 20 years ago when we started. I think that there's been an influx of people from different places. For example, a lot of the Colombianos that have come in and started groups. I mean, that's just one example, but I think the diversity of the type of music that is being played has expanded. And I really think that work like yours that you've undertaken with your group, with the ATX, with the world music, world beat.
Sure, yeah.
Group that you're putting together has helped sort of bring a lot of those people together. I think that's really great. I mean, unfortunately, there's not shows going on or anything, but I see that the community has grown and there seems to be a lot more communication and willingness to sort of work together for different stuff. And that's great because I remember like 20 years ago, it was only a couple groups, like at least groups that I was in contact with that I saw happening, like Grupo Fantasma, there was Gandaya, like maybe like Del Castillo or something, but it seems like it's really diversified more.
Yes, no, I agree with you, and for me personally, coming as a as a young man, a little boy from Brazil, and wow, I was not expecting necessarily to get to know in Austin, Texas, for example, some of the top 5 sitar players in the world. Indrajit, he lives here, he plays with Atash, lives right here in Austin, and the list goes on and on and on, right? In terms of these amazing musicians in a city that is not that huge, that are accessible, and that you can have this communication. Oh, these Colombianos come to town, and all of a sudden you are going to Colombia and doing things in that sense. So I think that's great. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit though. I always do this. I stalk y'all's Instagram, and then so here it goes. So before we talk about your experiences with Colombia and traveling the world, at one point, that's who you were.
Yeah.
So, un mocoso ahí en Laredo. So since we have folks, and later people watch this from Mexico and Brazil or here in Austin, tell us a little bit about your formative years. How was, what do you take when you go to stage today, or not today, but like nowadays, what from that little boy that we're looking at, what are some of those things that kind of have informed you throughout this journey, when you look back?
Yeah.
Or some of the things that stay with you, if any,
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in Laredo, I mean, there wasn't a lot of opportunity really to play music or like venues or festivals or anything like that. So it was really a challenge, and really it would have been very easy to not continue to pursue it. But I fell in love with music when I, like, early on, even before I started playing guitar, I became obsessed with bands and music. And then I started playing guitar at 13, and I met Greg Gonzalez, who's my bass player and my friend since the 8th grade for 30 years now,
he is one of the guys in the picture, and then you have El Loco, the producer, in the middle.
Yeah, that was in Miami. We were visiting him actually on the way back from Colombia, but yeah, Greg and I were able to form a bond really quickly and just started playing, and really were able to build up this I don't know if you call it a work ethic or what, but just the idea of writing our own music and of trying to make original music and to really sometimes be out there and just not be afraid to be weird or to write weird music or whatever. Because most of the scene at that time there in Laredo was cover bands, it was bar bands. It was people playing AC/DC and I mean, whatever kind of covers you could think of. And then we came out here playing our weird songs that we're like self-taught. So it was nothing that you could identify really. But I think just that spirit of doing what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, is something that we developed early on and then brought with us over here. And we still continue to do that. I feel like we don't put a lot of limitations on what we want to do musically.
No, absolutely. I think that has been a lot of the key to the success of the different things you've been around, whether they be Grupo Fantasma or whether, and you guys being very smart and strategic at times, oh, we have this funk within us. Let's explore in the Brownout Avenue and so forth. Here, I have a picture from you guys, maybe not the earliest picture, but definitely. Yeah. Not one of the latest either, and that's what when you were talking about this, you're not inhibited to put something different on the table. And the other thing that stay with me that you just said is this work ethic that you mentioned, and right there, like you and Greg riding the van, that couldn't be a better picture of that, right? You guys there.
Yeah.
And if you are watching this is something called touring. It used to be done in the 20th century a lot. Bands would get in vans.
Yeah, it's an artifact from history.
Oh, damn. It's we'll get around it. There's a time for everything, but it's really interesting that you mention the work ethic and this passion to get out there to represent what you want to see in the world in terms of what's in your mind musically and what may be your experience growing up in Texas. And that is awesome, man. With Grupo Fantasma, you guys have 7 different records. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We released our latest one in, I believe it was April or May or something of last year, something like that. Or maybe earlier, March.
And I must say, I believe I have the 1, 2, 3. I have the first 3 records, and then I have number 7 that I own, and then the other ones I hear stuff on online. But it's not so easy to release your 7th record and have it sound so fresh and have it be such a kick-ass record. We'll talk a little bit about that, how you guys record after record have been able to reinvent yourselves. Maybe not reinvent, maybe that's a strong word, but to stir the pot a little bit. Do you feel that way, or is it just me inventing stuff? Because for me it feels that, wow, they are not letting they're still stirring up the pot here and going for like unknown territory for them. How is that true? Do you see it that way?
Yeah, and I think that's always been the situation that we put ourselves in. Every time we've gone in to make a record, we've made some sort of change to try to get something different out of it. I mean, the first record, I'd say we didn't know what we were doing. We just were playing live songs, and then we tracked them, you know what I mean? But we started to formulate an idea of what we wanted to do with the second record. And then the third record was a live album. So that was changing it up. We were like, we should capture that. And as we kept going, like then we went into a nice studio and took this analog approach there, like in the middle, and started to figure out our sound. But and then eventually we did like Existential, which we built a studio in a house and recorded ourselves. So that was like what drove that. It was like, hey man, let's not go to a studio. Let's make a studio and do it. And
what was that on the east side, in the house where Damon, I don't know, Gandaya recorded a record on the east side in the house that got converted, and below Damon Lange of Nomad Sound basically had all of his stuff in the first floor, and the second floor we created into a studios. I was just curious if that was the same house or not.
that wasn't the same house, but that was the compound, and we actually recorded a Brownout record there. But no, we rented a house. I mean, I want to say North Austin, but it was North Austin from 12 years ago, so it wasn't even that far. It was sort of like in the airport area, like 35 in airport. But we rented a house up there and built a studio, and just like figured it out as we went along. Like we didn't really have nice studios at that time or anything. Even Adrian Quesada is the one who produced it and engineered it, and we were all learning how to do it. But coming forward to this latest record, so we decided to get a producer, an outside producer, somebody that we didn't know. And we had done that before with Steve Berlin on the record before. And for this one, we went with Carlos El Loco Bedoya, who's a Colombiano based in Miami, very gifted producer and artist himself. But I mean, he's been working with like huge pop artists for a long time. And I met him through the guys from Superfónicos with Jaime Ospina when I was mixing their record, and he came over to help out.
Yeah, if Jaime hears this, I'll get him here to have a conversation sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's I guess working with different producers and they are extracting different parts of having you guys go to interesting territory, and any particular thing from this seventh record that you would say makes it stand out against the others? Not stand out that is better or worse, but
well, we also went out to the studio. We went to Sonic Ranch out near El Paso. It's a studio. It's out in the desert. It's on a pecan orchard, and you stay there, and there's these wonderful like ladies, señoras, that cook for you like the best Mexican food ever. And you basically just live there, and it's an amazing studio. It's quiet and secluded. There's only other musicians there. So that whole experience kind of came together for us, where we just like fully immersed and fully focused like we never had before, because we were staying there. We weren't at home. So we just like left home, and all we did was that record there. And that's what we concentrated on. So it really helped us to fully immerse, because like you said, it can be difficult. And at that point, that was in 2018. We've been a band for 18 years, you know what I mean? And there's ups and downs, and we weren't really on like an up at that point. We were just kind of there, you know. We were still working and stuff, but it was like, how do we get excited? How do we get motivated to make a good record? And it was that whole process. It was getting the producer, it was going to that studio, and just like totally getting involved. And even if it started at first like kind of like, okay, what are we really doing here, guys? It didn't take long before we were all on the same page, and people had ideas, and it just started flowing, and it went from there.
Oh man, that's inspiring, and I'll take that to heart sometimes when when I'm getting on the way of myself. And for a moment, I just wanted to say once again, hello to everybody that may be watching this either on cable news channel 16, Austin, Texas Music Television, or if you're here on my Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. Salud, un mezcalito. Yes, cheers. I made myself a margarita. I was like, yeah, no, I actually got some good tequila. And just to say hello here, all the way from Brazil, Dionisio saying hello here, just saying oi. Yeah, Hello, Dionísio, músico querido. He's in Minas Gerais, Brazil. And oh, look who's here. Que onda? How you doing, chicas? Yes, we had the Tiara Girls last week. We had a great conversation too, and that's why I'll just like to. I keep playing the music of the folks that I have conversations. So Tiara Girls, thank you for being here. We played your lyric video at the beginning of the show. Beautiful work. That's right. That's right. And Rambo, what are you saying, Rambo? Okay, we got a question. Let's check it out. What was the song that made you realize you had an understanding of the guitar and its tones? The song that made you realize you could play just about anything. And all you had to do was practice the different styles of at that point. So was that a particular, I guess we're getting at a song that as you're working a particular song, you are, oh shit. After I play this song, I'm a badass.
I mean, I don't think that there was a song in particular, but there was an evolution, and there was a lot of music that I was hearing. I mean, when I started getting into like obscure kind of funk stuff and all the old 45s and stuff, that I started meeting people that were turning me on to all this cool old music. Then I started to realize I wanted to emulate that. And I mean, getting a guitar tone and sort of figuring that out took a while, I think. At first, I didn't know what I was doing. I probably had a really terrible tone. And then you just sort of start to build it and base it on stuff. I mean, when I discovered for myself chicha music and all the Peruvian cumbia like that, that was super eye-opening as well. That blew my mind. Me and Adrian both, when we first heard those guitars, we were like, that's what we've always wanted to hear, you know. That's the sound, that's the stuff. And so I started trying to emulate some of that too and sort of incorporate that into what we were doing. But yeah, I think just the confidence of thinking that you could play anything, it's experience and just being comfortable in what you do, which takes a long time, and there's ups and downs always. I mean, I get around people, musicians still, that I'm like, uh-oh, like this guy's really good. He's way better than me. Hopefully
was this one of these situations that you're like, oh, look, that boy from Laredo, look where the boy is now, hanging out with the big guns.
Yeah, that was a great night. That was the ACL 40th anniversary, and we were backstage, and just to be able to approach those guys on the same level, like we were all there for the same reason. We were all invited to be there, and that felt really good, you know, like these are some badasses, you know.
Yes, you know, Gary Clark Jr. here, and we got Mr. Jimmy Vaughn. Oh, and here, another comment here before we move on. Nelson, hey, Nelson, a great songwriter from America Central, great friend, saying thanks. Yes, así es. Yeah, man, that's so real, Beto. Sometimes we lose focus of certain things because we are on the grind, and you guys on the grind for so many years, playing shows and doing what you got to do to put food on the table, and at the same time being creative. But I think that several folks, now that we don't have live music, and you know, there's a level of appreciation that I'm seeing, and you know, and folks appreciate, like, wow, you know, many folks decided that I was gonna talk to you today because we miss what the city is all about, and also being a brown man in the United States in the 21st century during a Trump administration, a bad hombre, right? I feel that the more kick-ass righteous things that we are doing out there, it really makes a difference. How has it informed you at all, being, you know, a Tejano, a Mexicano, Mexican, American, however you see yourself? Has that informed you as politically as with your music, or how are you these days, in terms of your art and your activism? Is that something that you think about?
Yeah, I think so. And it's not something that I've always like really embraced. I think for the most part, the music that I love to play is dance music. It's fun music. And most of the things that we write about as a band or whatever, it's been about good times, but there's a time and a place for that. And there's a lot going on. Things have become very difficult for a lot of people. And there's a lot of injustice in the world. And earlier in the pandemic, when I finally sort of snapped out of just being kind of shocked that everything went away, I started recording music. I started doing this 2-minute song series that I think you checked out some of. And I started singing for the first time, which was just kind of a leap of faith. I knew it wasn't going to be great, but I was like, man, I'm just going to do this because what else am I doing? I'm here. I can't call the singer to come over here. So I just went for it.
It sounded great, man.
Oh, thank you. But that was one of those things, where it was just like, man, I'm just going to do it. But every one of those songs was about a particular incident and it seemed like there was one every week or every other day that was happening from like George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery and just everything that we were seeing happening since this went down. And each one of those songs, actually, the lyrics touched on some of that. So that was my sort of small contribution to that, I don't know if you would call it protest music, but just kind of making my voice heard and trying to express the frustration and the anger that I was hearing. And I think it wasn't super obvious. I wasn't like trying to tell everybody, hey, look at my like protest song, but that was my outlet for that,
100%. It's interesting, as I've studied Brazilian music a lot. Obviously, it's part of my roots in terms of music. But back in 1968, 69, when things were heating up all over the world, it seems, and in Brazil as well, the Brazilian musicians at that time, they were writing very explicit protest songs. The system, whatever you want to call it, the folks that it was the military dictatorship, and all of the media, they found a way to silence those voices, just kind of put them in a box, and not a lot of those guys went to jail or anything, Oh yeah, let them write their protest songs. And not to say that there's not a place for protest songs. I think there's important. Some of the most beautiful songwriting I hear from folks from Cuba and from different places in Latin America, in Chile. But in Brazil, it happened that the artists, there were a group of artists that now they are known as, the Tropicalia artists. They were writing music out of the box. They were a little bit psychedelic. They were, and the powers that be, they didn't know what to do with them. And their shows were packing, and it became equally revolutionary in a different way. And then we go 100 years before that, and that was the revolution of the samba in Brazil. That was the music that people were going to a brutal. In Brazil was the very last place in the Americas that slavery was over. Slavery was rampant in Brazil through the 1840s. It's I am ashamed to say as a Brazilian. But when you listen to samba, you don't think music of resistance. You think, oh, look at these pretty girls dancing. But the roots of that was the resistance, to go through that gruesome ordeal and still come out every Sunday and play that.
Yeah.
It was, maybe they were not very conscious at the moment, but as you look back, it was their FU to the slave owners to say, look at what we have this, So when you talk about, the fact that a lot of the music that you play is dance music, and music pa la gente, for all the people, regardless of their background, your music is universal. But that doesn't mean that it's not just for you guys to be doing what you're doing in 2020 and to be succeeding at what you're doing. I think that is a statement on its own. So I just want to commend you for that, and just to say, yeah, no, it's I always. It's cool that you got a little bit more explicit when you got in the pandemic in your studio. Now you're like, yeah. I've been blasting my Rage Against the Machine records too, so I catch your drift. and talking a little bit about that, let's talk for a moment about Brownout, which is another band that folks really loved, and you guys had some great records and interactions with folks from doing the Brown Sabbath. Yeah, talk. That's a little bit on the funk side of things. Are you guys doing stuff right now? Are you guys just of course, a lot of people are just sitting around and hanging out. But what's in the Brownout world?
So we did that show at the Moody Theater a couple weeks ago, and that was kind of the first show that we've done since March. But we put out a record in March, and it coincided with everything closing down. That record was produced by Steve Berlin, we call it the Berlin Sessions. That photo right there is from that session. So we didn't actually go to Berlin. The session was named after, or the record was named after Steve.
Now you killed the mystique, man. No, actually, you made it more mystique because Steven Berlin is a great producer.
He is, yeah. So we were very proud of that record. It was sort of the evolution of Brownout coming out of Brown Sabbath with Alex Marrero as the lead vocalist, and that was a new development for Brownout, to have a lead vocalist. So we're really proud of the record. Unfortunately, I think it mostly was under the radar because everything shut down as it came out. But it's there. We've been doing some work. We potentially the music for a podcast. I can't really say anything about that right now, but it's something that we're working on that hopefully it gets chosen for that. And
nice.
And yeah, we're starting to talk about some new music. Like, hey, there were a couple of outtakes from the record that haven't come out. So we're talking a little bit about, hey, maybe we should release some of those or something.
And how, with Brownout, yeah, it's a good. It's interesting. Is the writing process, the collaboration process? Is it some of the musicians also playing Grupo and so forth? Is it very different than the process with Grupo Fantasma, or there's some similarities in the writing and so forth? How do you see those two worlds? How do you navigate them?
Yeah, they can be pretty different. Brownout for many years was Greg Gonzalez, Adrian Quesada, and myself, and we were the three songwriters. And we pretty much wrote everything for the first three records. We started to initiate more of a collaboration with Mark Gonzalez, for example, who Speedy, who goes by Speedy, who is our trombone player and arranger. And we started basically just handing off more responsibilities to get people to collaborate. That's actually one of the things that we did with the Fantasma record too, the last one, where talking about how to make things fresh and how to add sort of a new impetus to making records after so long. It's one of the things we did. We opened it up and we're like, hey, let's all collaborate. So we started bringing songs unfinished into the studio so that other people could write and bring their parts in. So there is some similarity there that we also did that with Fantasma, but Fantasma is still a small group of writers, I think. Brownout has become a little more collaborative. And then now with Alex writing lyrics and vocal melodies and stuff like that, it sort of has changed that whole dynamic also.
Nice. I want to just say hello to everybody watching on Channel 16, Austin Music Television. Thank you for watching. Our feed with Channel 16 will be going in just a moment. So always a pleasure to have you guys. If you guys want to keep watching this interview or tuning later, just come to Frederico 7 Facebook or to the YouTube, and I'm running that below right now. Thank you for everybody on the Austin Music channel. If you are watching this right now on YouTube and Facebook, yeah, we're not going anywhere yet because I still have a couple of questions to ask you because you've done a lot of things, man. You've done a lot. So salud, Cita. Get your mezcal there if you have there. Eso. Así es. So you already mentioned that when we were talking about guitar work. When was that this idea, you felt when you were mentioning you're listening to this music from the Peruvian Amazon and parts of Colombia, and something clicked. And in some ways, the third band that I know that you are in is Money Chicha. So talk a little bit about Money Chicha and how does that excite you? What's the part, it's what's that adventure for you?
Yeah, so Money Chicha just kind of gave me a lot more freedom than the other bands. I mean, Grupo Fantasma is a 9-piece band right now. It was 10 for a long time, even 12 at one point. Brownout has fluctuated between 7 to 10, and now we're 9 right now. So there's always been sort of that ensemble type of just like if you play in a big ensemble, everybody sort of plays their part, and you can't really stretch out a whole lot if it's more like a big machine and lots of little parts. When we started Money Chicha, it was kind of explicitly with that idea, and it was Adrian Quesada, Greg, and myself again, who were like, let's play some of this Chicha music. And I laugh a little because one of the motivations was like, let's have a band that's not so big that doesn't have a horn section.
Yeah. All these rehearsals, and then oh my gosh, the organization, and then the money at the end of the night. Even if you made a lot of money, you had to divide in 12, 11, 10 people. So let's have it a smaller.
Exactly. And the horns, they're always complaining about the guitars are too loud and blah, blah, blah. So we were like, this band is just about guitars. So there was a lot of guitar interplay there with Quesada, for the first few years. And then he left to go and conquer the world. So then I had lots more freedom too. And that was sort of in 2015, and it allowed me to branch out a lot more. So it became a real outlet for me to be able to just kind of really get into playing guitar, and then to hone that sound. I always see it as different vocabularies. That's the way I think of it. From Fantasma to Brownout to Money Chicha, I think of it as different vocabularies and different accents, as far as the tone and the phrasing, especially with Money Chicha. I think it's a very particular sound, and I try to really go there when I do it. I don't just go into it like, well, I play funk and rock or whatever, and that's what I'm going to do here. I really try to think like I'm playing this particular style of music. So, yeah, like I said, smaller band, guitars out front. So it's always been really enjoyable and a real outlet for me on stage because I really get to do what I want.
Oh, man, that's cool. It's really wise, it's like, oh, this is a communication, this is a language, and there is a way that I communicate, and there is an accent that there are certain stories that I'm telling when I'm doing this with this band, and that is a big key to the success of folks that live in Austin that keep coming to see you guys perform in different bands. They know that, like you're saying, it's going to be a different world and a different experience. Oh yeah, it's Greg Gonzalez and Beto, but oh no, this is Money Chicha. This is This is another thing that I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Man, that that is awesome, man. And I so once again, that's part of the journey that took you from here. And then, of course, this is not the end of the journey, but a big part of your journey was this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just to get to the point that you're playing with Prince on stage, and that you're having experiences to be on rehearsals and your band. How did it feel? Did it feel like, hey, I arrived at this? Maybe there are many different peaks, but like, did it feel like you had arrived at a peak and was harvesting some of your hard work, or were you just so nervous about not playing a wrong note around Prince that you didn't even think about any of that shit, and you were tell us a little bit of that amazing, well-earned opportunity that you guys had to interact with such an amazing artist.
So it really was a little bit of both, you know. I mean, we were working, and that when the whole Prince thing happened was right in the middle of our like early-ish kind of touring years. We'd already been touring for about 6 or 7 years, but that was like we were all like in our 20s, early 30s, and we were just touring hard. That's all we did. So we were working really hard already, and then this opportunity came up. And yes, at first it was like shocking, and it was like, I don't want to make a mistake, and I just have to like concentrate on what I'm doing and make sure he doesn't ask me to do something that I can't do. But you know, very quickly, the first time that we rehearsed with him, he walked into the room and walked directly up to me. Like we were waiting for him, like already super nervous, because he would sort of play this game where you had to wait for him, and then people would start talking about him with like walkie-talkies, saying like he's on his way, he left the house, he's down the street. So, and we've already been there for hours, and
he's getting a latte.
Yeah, but it's building up, and you're like, oh shit, here he comes, and I'm like stretching my hands and like, all right, be ready, like, just trying to be ready. And of course he walks up to me, and he's just like, what are you playing on this song? And I'm like, and he's like, 1, 2, 3, just like, play it now, you by yourself. And I didn't completely fail there somehow. And then he picked up a guitar and showed me a part. And then before I knew it, I was just involved in what was happening there, and I wasn't really thinking about anything else. And that was kind of the way things went with him. It was always about work and about music from sun up to sundown, and that's all we did. So we were very involved in the task at hand. But once we did it for a little while, and then we started to get sort of, I don't know if you can ever get used to it, but we started to get a confidence basically after doing some things and realizing that he was trusting us and that we were delivering. It's a validation, because we were, like I said, just this band touring in a van, this band from Austin. I mean, we were playing a lot and playing a bunch of festivals and all this, but suddenly we were at the O2 Arena with 20,000 people, like sold out, and he's yelling to the crowd, London, this is Grupo Fantasma, and it's like, and then it just occurs to you, like, man, we're here for a reason. Like, we didn't just end up here by accident.
Exactly.
So it becomes a validation, and then that helps you, that builds your confidence. So we went straight from that experience to making the first record that got Grammy nominated for us. And I think all of that just sort of built it up. And like I said, it gives you a confidence, because you think, this amazing musician here, he's trusting me on stage, he's trusting us to do what we're supposed to do, and he keeps calling us back, so we're obviously doing something right. So yeah, it was an amazing validation. And when we talked about like work ethic earlier, I mean, nobody worked as hard as he did, you know, and to be able to see that and see the professionalism, to see how he just if he wasn't playing, he was rehearsing. If he wasn't rehearsing, he was recording. If he wasn't recording, he was writing. And then we were just involved in some of those aspects, but it was like we would play the show. We'd go from the show straight to an after party. We'd play the after party, and then there'd be a rehearsal, and he'd be like telling us new songs to play. And then we'd go from there to our own shows afterwards. You know, we'd fly somewhere else. But seeing him do it and seeing him from the moment he walked out onto that stage, just kill it and not stop until, 12 hours later, really made an impression as far as showmanship, professionalism, and work ethic. And that sort of changed a lot of things for us, I think.
Man, it's lifelong experience that you carried that as a professional, and then those stories that your daughters were like, "No, Dad, I already heard that he's gonna tell you the Prince story. Here he comes. he's on his second mezcal now."
They're like, "Oh no, he's gonna start talking about it."
Oh man, but if you're going to have a grandpa story, that's the story you want to have, and because it's not a passive thing, it's really, once again, standing up for excellency, for hard work, and seeing that pay off in that moment. It's like you said, it's a great validation, and that gives you oxygen for many years, as the life of an artist, the musician. Sometimes our path is a little cycle, right? Right now, we all in a down cycle. None of us can choose, right? So
yeah.
But that is terrific, man. Talking about that confidence and talking about that validation. Did that play out at all when you decided I gonna also now I want to step into this role of having my own studio and sometimes being a producer and Leche House, which is your studio that I've had so much fun recording that. How do all of this? How do you see all of this past experience playing out now into you owning your own studio? How does that inform you?
Yeah, I mean, it's all really come together to make this happen. I mean, I even like the first few records that we made, I wasn't really that interested in the studio, but that came through slowly. And I was Adrian Casala's neighbor for 8 years. I owned a house on the next block from him, and he started his little spot that he just moved out of and that he ultimately expanded and all this. But I used to wake up with ideas in my head and walk over to his house, and then he would record it on GarageBand or whatever. And that's how that started. And I think that's where I started to sort of want to do that for myself. And I started to want to learn more. And that experience that we had when we built the studio in 2008, 2009 to record El Existential, that Fantasma album, really changed a lot for me too. Because that whole process of putting that room together and then realizing that it didn't really sound that great and we had to do all this work to make it sound good and to figure out the gear, like really just made something click. And I started trying to do it myself just on my laptop from there, and then a little tiny interface, and eventually when I moved out here to Buda and we found this house, it had a space where I could build a studio. And I just kind of got the confidence to, first of all, spend the money, which is always difficult as a musician because you never know when you're going to have money. So
looks beautiful right there in this picture, looks great.
Thanks, man. But yeah, just making that leap and starting to put it together. And then there's a learning curve with that. But I think eventually, yeah, I started to get it to do what I wanted it to do. And then that confidence builds. And now I feel comfortable in here. I feel like I can do what I want. And I really couldn't see it any other way. I mean, the studio also was sort of a way to keep working when we weren't touring, because we toured hard for about 13 years, and then things started to slow down in the like after 2013. And then they came back up and they came back down and whatever. But I started to realize, like, okay, there's these cycles. What do I do when I'm home? So this was also an extension of that.
Yeah, man. I imagine for me, the case that was for me is for many other musicians that have recorded there. They feel at ease with another musician that understands what they're trying to do, and so it's just like you said, it's an extension of everything you're doing and developing your ear, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you can have amazing gear, but if your ear is not working right, it's and that has been a pleasure of mine to be there in your space. Man, I'm just thrilled for all that is happening right now. Of course, you're not doing any recording sessions, or maybe you're being very careful. But I did, for folks in the future, or if folks have questions or want to get together with you in terms of production, maybe from far away, things, I'm dropping there your website, which looks great, by the way. It's interesting, like welcome. Like you were saying earlier, sometimes this pandemic has found ways for us to work in different ways. I think you remember the bass player that Sidão Santos that I brought in the session, Seu Jorge's bass player. So through Sergio and Sidão, I recorded 2 songs of mine that the sessions were all in Brazil. So there is 5 musicians in Brazil, and there is a 2 GoPros in the studio, and I'm in the session, but I'm here in Austin. And so I had the opportunity to work with this really amazing guys. Basically, Seu Jorge's band. Basically, all of those guys, they are in Rio with no gigs, with no work coming through, and they are really needing some session work. And and they were like, "Hey, I had an opportunity." But it's interesting, the technology, and how sometimes it can work, that it can do things like this that Adrian did and that you were part of, the Walk With Me, this amazing song in collaboration with some of the very best musicians of Austin, that you were part, representing Grupo Fantasma. Just putting out there in the screen that you guys can find more about this project by going to walkwithmeaustin.com. Just a testament to what we were talking about earlier, the music scene and people coming together and trying to leverage their music and their creativity for a good cause. And so that was something that you did, and that was fun. Anything you want to talk about this process or this collaboration that you guys did?
Yeah, this was a really cool thing that Adrian approached us about, and he was like, "Hey, I would love to get the percussionist and you on there," and he gave me the opportunity to sort of write the little cumbia part that ended up being in there. But I mean, it's a huge song. There's like 43 or 45 people participating, amazing artists. So we had our one little piece, but it was just very cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, man, I definitely dug that. But yeah, man, I had a lot of fun just like listening to your trajectory at these times as we navigate to 2020. I know that we may, depending on what happens here, we may have still several months to be in this cave that we are. As we move forward with some insecurity, all of us, what are some of the things that are giving you strength, in these times? What are you finding your peace or your resiliency at these difficult times?
Well, like I said, sort of reaching out to other people and initiating a lot of collaborations. But just that idea of talking to people that I normally didn't talk to because we were all so busy. There's just sort of like, suddenly there was time, it was always like, we should do something. Yeah, we should do something. Or, hey, I'd love to do something there, but there was never time. So that has really moved me and really pushed me forward. I have probably 3 records right now that I finished, with the first one set to come out in February of next year. I was hoping to have some stuff this year, but just the way the whole timing and trying to plan everything well, they're all going to slowly start coming out in 2021. But that's really moved me, and these new collaborations and new relationships with sometimes old friends, but just like sort of approaching it in a different way and having the freedom to do it, not just being like, I'm on the road, I'm super tired, and when I come home, I'm not working on other stuff because we're so busy or whatever. There's just been a whole other sort of freedom that came out of this. And then, of course, spending so much time at home with my family, with my daughters, and which doesn't usually happen. I'm usually gone in the summer, so I was here in the summer. I mean, that's really been great to spend a whole bunch of time with my family and just sort of enjoy each other's company. As my girls grow up, you know, they're in 6th grade now, and they're going to start transitioning to the teenagers. So I know things are going to change, but
oh, change is part of the game. But I'm glad that you guys have the opportunity to, you know, to connect at this time, and hopefully you guys will look with a little bit of, oh, those are hard times, but at least we grew together as a family, and it's great to hear about the collaborations, man. I just I wish you all the best, so that you can keep really this creative drive that you have going, this drive for excellency that you had your whole career. And also, feliz cumpleaños, happy birthday. That was el 25th of October, so just the other day.
Yeah.
So
cheers.
salud.
Salud.
Cheers for you, Beto, and everybody that's had a birthday this week. So I just want to thank you for your time, brother. Once again, I started doing this Tuesday show. I don't know how many seasons or how many months I'll be doing it, but for as long as it provides an opportunity for connection, here we are. So maybe I'll have you back some other time. But before I let you go, I do want to play some more music. So just like we were talking about, you've been in your studio, Leche House Studios, and you've been on the creative place when you can. And this song that I'm going to play is from your 2-minute song series. It's called What It Is. Do you want to, just one more time, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what was, that was a way for you to keep yourself creative? What about this 2-minute song series? What was this process?
Yeah, so this process started with a song that we had been throwing around, me and the singer from Fantasma, Aquino, for a long time. That was like a Tejano jam that was called Me and Your Dad, and it was kind of a joke, and we were supposed to work on it together, and then he couldn't do it, so I decided to record it and then sing it, and it was just going to be amongst the band. I sent it to those guys first, and everybody laughed, and they're like, "Oh, you're singing, it's funny, whatever." But then I posted it online just
they're mean. They're mean.
But I threw it out there, and then people were like, "This is really cool. This is really fun." And it just started this thing, man, where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait to see what happens. I'm just going to start doing this. And I have a drum set here, and I have guitars and bass and my voice, and I started doing it. And then as things started to happen in the world, I started getting inspired to write about those things, and it just drove me even more. And I just wanted to keep it short, you know what I mean? Just do like these 2-minute songs, because I was doing them in one day. I was writing and recording them in one day, and then putting them up there. And that was the initial goal, and that's how that happened. And I hadn't done one in a while, but this one you're going to play was just recent. I just got inspired by something, and I decided to lay another one down. And I had never done video with them. I was just doing audio. So I wanted to try to see if I could do that. I said, I'm going to film myself playing all the instruments, try to put it together. There's so many musicians right now that are excelling at that. One that I think of is Roger Blevins from Mingo Fish Trap. And
yes, absolutely.
he's making like these amazing looking videos, you know. So mine is not there. It's not that, but I just wanted to try the concept, see if I could do it. So so that's what this one is.
Man, I think sounds great, and we're gonna play it right now. Thank you so much for your time, Beto. Appreciate you. You can now go back to your daughters. They're like, hey, ¿qué onda, güey? No, just kidding. But it's just great. You know, we just touched the surface. There are so many other things that you've been involved, that you've done. But I really appreciate your time, just sharing, especially. And once again, you know, it's good to connect and to look back. Gives us a little oxygen because it's good to be hopeful too. There will be things coming ahead for you and for the whole crew. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and gracias por la música.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Yes, no, man, my pleasure as well. So this is what it is here at Leche House Studios in Buda. That's Beto Studio, and let's go. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you guys once again. Great time, great stories, and special time to catch up with great musicians like Beto Martinez. Once again, I've known Beto for so many years, from the times that Grupo Fantasma started at the Empanada Parlor, and a band that I had called Gandaya. That we used to play together several events back in the early 2000s, and to see a great trajectory of these great artists and friend is very special. So muchas gracias. Once again, thank you so very much for Beto for being here today. Próxima semana, next week. So yeah, I'm excited next week. Super, super, super excited, because our guest next week is a singer-songwriter, Aubrey Hayes. Yeah, so Aubrey is a uber talented performer and songwriter. She also has done a number of initiatives to get out the vote and leverage her music for civic causes and for the right of women to do what they want to do with their bodies. So definitely want to be hanging out with Aubrey next Tuesday, which is election night. So we're going to talk about music, about advocacy, and how she's leveraging her joy and her passion in this critical time. So you can watch the show in different ways, as seen on the screen in the bottom. Really appreciate everybody. So looking forward to share the music. That's all we do here on Tuesdays. Last week I had the Tiara Girls. And today, once again, if you're just tuning in now, you just missed a conversation with Beto Martinez, but you can later go on into my YouTube channel, and you can catch that all the way from the beginning. I think the information is right there below. And you just saw me talking about the great Aubrey Hayes. She is a fantastic writer, performer, uber talented singer, and will be here next week with us. A couple of things happening this week in terms of music, international music in town. I'll just tell you real quick. On Friday, this Friday at 7 p.m., Ray Arteaga, Scotty McIntosh, and Javier Jara. This is an in-person show at Esquina Tango, esquinatangoaustin.com. Social distancing outdoors. There's a number of COVID protocols in place. They take your temperature, and there's a lot of things, but you feel safe when you go to Esquina Tango Austin. They have music on Fridays and Saturdays. So this Friday, there is a Latin jam with Ray Arteaga, great musician, percussionista, cantor. Scotty McIntosh. If you don't know Scotty, you should. He is a great arranger and saxophone player. And Javier Jara from Ecuador, Pan-American singer-songwriter. On Friday as well, if you don't want to go anywhere, you can stay in because it's Scalloween with the Scatterlights. Flamingo Cantina is having a live stream with the legendary Scatterlights. That is correct, the Flamingo Cantina and their Facebook page. So if you want to stay in on Friday and check out some great reggae, you can tune in there. On Saturday, Noche de Cumbia y Vallenato, Esquina Tango again. So, all right, Beto Cartagena. There is some dancing for Cumbia and Vallenato. So, socially distancing, you have to reserve your platform in advance. Many COVID protocols in place, esquinatangoaustin.com. On Saturday as well, the Sahara Lounge is open for business. They also have done a number of protocol things so that they can have their Africa night. So there's something happening Saturday at the Sahara Lounge. You may want to check it out. And then on Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m., Brazilian Jazz Happy Hour with Paula Maia. That's an online event on Paula Maia's Facebook page. And of course, I already talked about the fact that next Tuesday, we got Aubrey Hayes coming on here. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Mucho amor. I'm going to end the show with just another tune. This is called La Mirada del Halcón, The Hawk's Gaze. It's a little amalgamation video that I made back in the day. I'll end the show with this song. It was recorded. Actually, we were talking about Adrian Quesada and Electric Deluxe Studios, which is Adrian Quesada's studio. We were just discussing that with Beto. This song was recorded at Electric Deluxe Studios with Adrian Quesada being the producer. I wrote the song, and Mr. Michael Longoria played the drums and did the rhythmic arranging. So enjoy The Hawk's Gaze, La Mirada del Halcón, and I'll see you guys next week. Obrigado.
Que alumbra, una canción que acuda palpitando corazón, una canción que alarde coraje al cobarde en la puerta salvaje, no hay prisión, una canción que exige las plumas del buitre, la mirada del halcón, se alastra el deseo apretando al pecho las musas de la canción. alumbra, emoción que acuda palpitando corazón. Una canción que alarde, coraje al cobarde, la puerta salvaje, no hay prisión. Se deshizo el miedo, se encantó al encaje, en 7 dimensiones bailó el león. Se hostigó el castigo, alas al destino, una canción camino. Singularidad, amor, sintonía, mera realidad, la fuente de alegría. Singularidad, amor, sintonía, mera realidad, la fuente de alegría. Una canción que alumbra, emoción que acuda palpitando corazón. Una canción que alarde al cobarde, la puerta salvaje, no hay prisión. Una canción que exige las plumas del buitre, la mirada del halcón. Se alastra el deseo entregándose al pecho, las musas de la canción. Singularidad, amor, sintonía, la realidad, la fuente de alegría. Singularidad, amor, sintonía, la realidad, la fuente de alegría.